Hello there, TNA fam. How's it going? We are back here at the Impact Zone podcast, and we're here again to talk spoilers today, or at least some potential spoilers. Because I know some people, usually me included, do not want to hear many spoilers. And I usually do not dive into spoilers. But I happened to see this one. So I wanted to talk about it. And I don't know about this. It might come through better. I don't know. Later on. We'll have to wait and see. So the news, or at least from what I have heard, rumblings coming along. And so, yeah, I wanted to say, do not listen to this if you do not want to be spoiled. That Mike Santana is going to face Frankie Kazarian at Genesis. So, of course, now I've just heard this. Now, somebody could be making that up. But in case it is a spoiler, I just think that I should say that this is a spoiler, just in case it isn't. Well, you know, someone's reported something wrong. But whatever, what have you, who cares? It is what it is. Let me see. I was looking for the post, but I cannot find it. It's I actually decided to search it up because I thought, it'll be easier to actually search it up than to find it, but I can't find it. Maybe I can actually find it. Maybe if I'm not too specific. So yeah, this has been at least speculated about 4 hours ago. So that's obviously the main event, potentially at least, if this report or this spoiler can be believed. So I want to go down the rabbit hole just a little bit and think, if this is the direction, what direction they'll be going in with this. And I have heard a lot of rumblings with a lot of people and whatnot about the whole situation and whatnot with TNA. I think it would be a better situation in some ways to try to appease people as much as possible. But the problem with that is, what appeases people doesn't really draw money in a lot of ways. And I've said this before, many times. What really appeases people at the end of the day is giving something to somebody to say, okay, cool, let's give you a story and something to work with. And that's what I was thinking, like, with Santana, and this is why I'm doubting it. Plus, I like to say, don't really look spoilers up most of the time, but I happened to see this one, and so I thought, well, let's just go down the rabbit hole and talk about this or what have you. So I thought it would be interesting in some ways to talk about it. Now, I think, as I was saying, I think I know what people want. People want to see Santana as the guy. I think that's cool and all as well. I think Santana's the man right now, or he's at least one of the top guys. But that's sort of your issue right there. You do not have enough people. You just lost Joe Hendry. That's a big deal. You need to make big deals out of a lot of other guys. And I said this as well in other videos as well, saying, hey, you need to give more guys more things to do and more reason to be at the top, and more other guys you can't, like I said, you cannot be reliant on one guy or whatever, one gal, whatever, anything. You need 5 or 6 people that are at the top or feel like they're at the top or feel like they could be the top person at any time. And that is tough, but again, that's kind of what you got to do. And I've said this a lot too with a lot of the TNA talent. They've got a lot of good talent, but a lot of the main event talent that they've got is old head talent. Not a lot of talent has really been, like, younger talent has been really given enough time to, like, break out and you know, climb up the ranks and whatnot. Like, you could say Santana is still somewhat of a younger talent, and so is Steve Macklin. Those guys are still in their, like, 30s or whatever. But still, they're starting to get into that somewhat older territory because they've already been to the top, been to the dance. So it's like, well, you know, you've already been here. You're starting to become old news. You've got to kind of, once you've had a couple of reigns at the top or had a reign at the top, you've kind of got to, you know, step away or reinvent yourself or come back with a better and bigger story. I think that's what you'd have to do with Santana. You'd have to say, okay, we have to come up with a bigger and better storyline than what we already had. And you're not going to do that in a month. You're not going to do that by just saying, he's challenging Kazarian. Cool story. Like, in a sense, this is a rematch. And that's cool, but, or whatever, at least if it's happening. But, like, the expectation shouldn't be then for that Kazarian's losing. I think if you're going to say, let's put it back on to Santana, that's cool. I have no problems with that, like I said. But I'm just saying you need to build up other people as well. You cannot just sit there and keep saying, oh, well, we'll just rely on Santana. We'll just go back to Santana, you know. And, like, you've got to, even if you say, oh, well, Santana's our guy or whatever, you've still got to give him obstacles. You've got to give him opponents to fight. You know, he can't just beat Kazarian and then it's like, oh, well, Nick Nemeth maybe has the Courier shot or whatever. Maybe that's something that you could do, maybe, but I feel like, again, I keep having to push this there, but it's like, at a certain point, I feel like, I think that putting two people with the Courier shot was kind of a mistake, but I don't know. It's tough to say, honestly. But it's sort of like one of those things of saying, well, now we have this other person that has the Courier shot as well, kind of thing. So, I think at that point you're starting to say, well, he's got to wait 6 months or even more to call his shot. Because, I don't know. And I think if you start saying, when should he call his shot or why should he call his shot, he has to call it either during a match or, like, as soon as as soon as a match is finished. So as someone is worn down so that he can do it in the heel way that, you know, that they would want him to do it. There's no point in cashing in on Kazarian or while Kazarian is champion. So there's going to have to be something that blocks him every single time from doing that. And it feels like if the only things that you could do that with are the NXT guys coming in every time, then you're starting to be like muddying the waters with them attacking heels as well as attacking baby faces. So that feels a little less good because you're not keeping it consistent with, like, who they attack or what have you. You obviously you can, like, be like, they don't care who they attack or whatever else it is. They're just, like, hitting people to hit people or whatever it is. That sort of thing. But, like, at a certain point, it isn't as good or as effective, I think. It's just one of those things of saying, well, they should and really only baby faces should ever come out to help the other baby faces being attacked. Like Kazarian, I think in the last match when a bunch of the NXT guys attacked, he was walking away. I was like, that's actually good in some ways, because it's like, he's a heel. What does he have to do with this in some ways? Even if he's Mr. TNA in some ways, it's like, well, I don't care as long as I've got the belt. That's all I care about. So, unless they actually directly attack me, like, I don't really care. Like, even though they did attack me, like, I don't really care. And again, maybe you're starting to, like, hint that he actually did have something to do with it still. So people kind of go, well, they didn't attack him when they could have. But did they really, like, want to? Because he might have let them in, or whatever. So he might be behind it or whatever. So you're still trying to, like, eke that into the story a little bit. But the idea, I think is fine. I think the actual idea of this rematch or whatever is fine. I think, like, the consensus that everyone has sort of come to, well, not everyone, but nearly everyone has come to, is that Kazarian will lose. And I don't think that's the case. I think, well, I hope that that's not the case in some ways. I know that some people are like, we don't want Kazarian to be the champion or whatever else it is and whatnot. And all of that sort of stuff, but you actually really do want him to be the champion, at least for now, and at least for a little while. You don't want to just be like, still hot potatoing that title. It's no good to be hot potatoing titles ever. So you need to be, like, sitting there and going, okay, cool, right, this is our plan, and this is where we're going. So, that's why I was saying, like, with Nick Nemeth, maybe this match will end with Nick Nemeth trying to cash in. I don't know. But it is one of those things of saying, at a certain point, like, again, like, with the NXT stars stuff, you can only have them attack the babyfaces or attack the TNA wrestlers so many times, even with, like, people, coming in to say, look, save the day or what have you, all of that sort of stuff, whatnot. But you can only do that so many times, type thing. You can't do that. You've got to progress the story. They have to do different things. They have to be attacking people backstage. They have to be attacking, having brawls backstage. They have to be doing different things, or they have to be saying, things on commentary of saying, they've had to, separate the NXT locker room or whatever else it is, because otherwise, like, the TNA stars would beat them up, or, the NXT people would be, attacking the TNA stars backstage or whatever else it would be. So you've got to have security, whatnot, or them finally attack the security, defeat the security or whatever it is, and then, go back at it. Those sorts of things. You've got to have those other little things of, like, stepping forward the story with, like, initially Stax didn't hit Santino, and then he hit Santino, and now you're, like, progressing the story somewhere else, like, to the next level, and to the next level, and to the next point, like, so, yeah, you've got, like, and again, like, I think with some of this stuff, like I said before, like, that's kind of why I felt like you're going to keep Santana strong in the build up to Final Resolution and in Final Resolution, because it's like, even, and maybe, like, the arm's going to come into play, because that arm has somewhat come into play, and Frankie's submission hold is that chicken wing, so he could use that arm to his advantage, or even just, like, tear apart that arm. So maybe he'll win with, like, maybe not an arm bar, because I don't see Santana quitting, but maybe he'll win by pinning Santana or something like that, because the arm gives out. He's already kind of done that. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe, like, again, you have some of the NXT guys attack him during the match, or even just help Kazarian retain, because then again, you're kind of like, indicating that he was behind it or whatever, or he had something to do with it or whatever else it was, or at least somewhat signaling it, because then you've got more heat and reason and story to go into. Even if you're going to say he didn't do it, you've got more like leverage on that, and it's like, well, this is what we're doing. So and Santana's got to be like, even though I've been taking you fools down, you roaches just keep coming or whatever, and whatnot. So that's where I see things going at the moment. I'm probably going to have to make the video with some of this in there if it turns out to be true. So, I'm probably going to say a lot of the same stuff. I might even just, I don't know, take some of this and clip it out. I don't know, dude. But whatever. It is what it is. Again, if you're going to go down this route with Santana and Kazarian, which is fine. Again, it's a rematch. But if you're going to go down that route, you've got to be saying, okay, we have a story for Santana. He's not just going to lose. He's going to lose or whatever. But, this is actually the route that we're going. But we need to get this rematch out of the way. So it's not lying over everyone's not going, oh man, they haven't given Santana his rematch, or they haven't for months and months and months and whatever. They can't, they don't want to do that. They want to give him the rematch now, and then say, okay, cool, now we'll move on for a little while, and Santana will do what he does for a little while, and then he'll earn back the title at another point somehow, some way, or whatever it is. After going through stuff or whatever it is, or somebody else. I don't really think somebody else will, because no one else has felt like they're on that level yet. That's why I was saying, again, it feels like you need to build more people. Even in the heel side, build more people up. Who's there for him to face besides maybe Ali, or maybe Kazarian himself. EY is there, but he's not, I don't want to say he's not a credible challenger in some ways, but he's not a credible challenger because he hasn't got anything going on right now. And I feel like in some ways Santana should team up with EY, because he's saying the cleanse is coming and whatever, all this. You talking about the cleanse, I want to cleanse these NXT mofos out of here. So let's work together and cleanse some of these bastards out of here. Whatever. That sort of thing. So, I don't know. You've got to think about, saying, that's another role for him. Even if it's, somewhat of a face role or whatever. You could almost start saying, let's take Santana in a heel role. I don't know whether it would really work yet, but, you could see him being a lot more gritty, or a lot more down that rabbit hole a little bit, sort of thing. Just being mad at these NXT people for continually getting in his way and all of that, and interfering and whatnot, things like that. So you could show that in a different light, more aggression. So yeah, no, I don't think Santana would win. I just, if Santana wins, then I don't think that that's a good idea at this point. At Slammiversary or at Bound for Glory later in the year, yeah, sure, that's 100% fine. But, or even maybe Rebellion, I don't even know. But yeah, right now, or at Genesis, which, whatever, is what I'm talking about, is, too soon for me to feel oh yeah, you're gonna do that. That's what you're gonna do. And even when you say Rebellion, I feel well, that's only 3 more months away. Maybe you could swing it then, but I feel Slammiversary or Bound for Glory would probably be better. I don't know. I don't know what would be best. So yeah. But still, and that's the thing, if you get back to Santana too early kind of thing, it's like, well, again, what are you going to do with him? Because he's like, there's not many, like, that's what I mean. You've got to bring in a lot more people, and or you've got to bring a lot of the people that you've kind of got up a level or two. And I was kind of thinking like this as well with like the match between JDC and Eddie Edwards. I was thinking, dude, here's, a chance for Eddie Edwards to earn that number one contendership, so there's a path for him there to get a possible number one contendership and have a match with Frankie. So that has to be a pretty big match. That's not like a B-level pay-per-view match, realistically, if you build it up right. So I feel like that's where you, in my opinion, you're just trying to go, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, that would be like maybe the Rebellion match. Maybe. I don't know, but it's still like that could be a bigger time match built up right. But again, that's the same thing that you need to do for Frankie right now is if you were building for Santana, you've got to bring more baby faces, more top guys. And even like I said this about Macklin before. I said Macklin should be back in the mix with Kazarian and saying, hey, like you beat me for this title, I beat you back for this title, you never asked for a rematch for that international title, I think it's because you're scared of me or something, things like this or whatever. You don't want to face me, and so I want to face you because like I know I can beat you, I've already done it, and things like that or whatever. You can bring him back into the fold of that picture, and even if he's going to lose, it doesn't matter. It's bringing him back up to the next level kind of thing and giving him something to do at least temporarily. That's another match that could be like Rebellion or Slammiversary, a bigger event than just random, or not random, but a random pay-per-view or even a random TV episode. But yeah. So for now, we will keep our eyes and ears pierced to TNA TV, because this next week they'll have the first taping. So whatever comes out, they'll have to be announcing like the main event, like the main matches, or at least like teasing the main matches for Genesis, because like if they're not teasing the main matches for Genesis to say, hey, this is what you're going to see, like even saying, oh yes, it's a big show or whatever else it is and all of this stuff or whatever, like the fact that they're going to take like basically 2 weeks off at the end of the year is like gonna hurt the build a bit. So then you're going to get 2 weeks build after the New Year's. Well, maybe 3 weeks, I think. No, the third week is the live episode. Well, that live episode's going to be pretty big, hopefully, as well. So that's where you've got to have your real go-home episode, like, and something else. Like, I don't know, like, I said this I can't remember whether I said this in a video, but there's been a lot of rumors and discussion about AJ Styles coming in. So, like, obviously I don't know if that's going to happen, but if it was going to happen on the AMC debut, it's like, dude, what's he going to do then? Like, what would he do as a match with very little build-up? That's what I mean. It's like, that sounds really cool and whatnot, and obviously if they get him, people would still be hyped. Just because of who it is, but I would say that if he's going to do anything, it's more likely that he's just going to appear, but it's most likely that just nothing's going to become of it, in my opinion. Just in my humble opinion. It's very unlikely, in my opinion, that he's going to turn up. it'd be really cool if he did, obviously. And I said this as well. I said, like, if he's turning up, like, the hype that's already around, like, this new AMC live episode is pretty big. And there's a lot of hype around even just the idea that he could turn up, possibly, as well. Like, but, like, him being confirmed, we saw what that did already. Just like saying, even just a little tease, was like, holy crap, blew everybody up. And then when it was announced, everybody went crazy, and that moment lives rent-free in my mind, obviously. I think it lies rent-free in a lot of people's minds. But the thing is, like, again, great, awesome wrestler of the past. Legend, icon. That's the problem with a lot of people. Legends and icons. Lots of respect for them, but it's like their time as being one of the top people isn't the priority or shouldn't be the thing anymore. Can you give him, if he was to come back and do something more full-time in TNA, could you give him one last big hurrah? Absolutely. Absolutely. But doing that means that what you've got to do is say, hey, where do we begin and where do we end with you? You know what I mean? It takes a big commitment of a long period. Like, if he's just gonna turn up just to have a random match with somebody, just a squash match, like, I don't think people will care. And, like, no, maybe I'm wrong. I think people would care, but, like, don't think that they should care. I don't know. Because it's like, so what? But it's just the spectacle of seeing the one of the guys, like, this is the guy, that was the face of the franchise. But that's the problem. It's like, if he's gonna win, it's like, well, what was that for? Type thing. Besides just the pop or the moment or whatever. So that's why I'm saying, like, if he was to come back, realistically, that moment would mean a whole lot more, or those things would mean a whole lot more if he was actually like, okay, I'm going to be here, sometimes, or I'm going to appear again and again and again, But it's going to be tough for him, because he's in that position of, hey, I'm on the main roster. I've got, dates and whatever else. I've got to be in Raw. I've got to be in SmackDown. I've got to be on their pay-per-view. I've got to do this and whatever other things. And just like living, having your family and whatnot. And I know he has a family and whatnot. A lot of people do, but, he has kids and whatnot. But still, that is obviously a priority for a lot of, people as well. So it's not just the travel and the hours that would require him to be like Raw, SmackDown, TNA, NXT, whatever, pay-per-view, whatever else that they're going to make him do. He's got media appearances to make, let alone, all of that other stuff. And then you've got to go to the gym and train and all this other stuff. So it's like, yeah, it's not simple. Nothing is simple ever, ever, ever. So, again, like, I would be surprised if they do it. I would love it. Obviously, a lot of people would love it. But again, like, the meaningless of him having just a random match on a random episode of Impact is like, great, but so what? Where does that leave whoever loses, what do they have to do then to do the next thing, or to not recover? Or you could do it against somebody like Ryan Nemeth, I think, but why would you do it against somebody like that? So I'm almost saying that, AJ should have to lose. But I don't think people would want to see that. I think people would be really pissed if he came and lost. So I feel like, if, which is huge if right now, if he's going to appear, that it will just be in the role of, at least for now, he'll be just like, hello, I am back, whatever. Again, I'm here to introduce the new home of TNA, or whatever. AMC, Thursday Night Impact. I haven't really talked much about the slight name change either, actually. Should I talk about that? Maybe I should. I don't know. I don't think I care. So, but whatever. Do people care? I don't know. I think people know what the show is anyway. I think just saying that the show's on Thursday night, like they used to say Monday Night Raw, it wasn't the official name, but it's like, it has a nice kind of ring to it in a way, so I don't think it's perfectly fine. I just don't think that I have much thoughts on it. But yeah, just having said that and having brought it up, it just kind of brought it to my mind of saying, hey, wait a minute, we haven't really talked about this yet. So maybe you should bring it up and see what you all think or whatever. Maybe you all really want to hear my thoughts on it beyond just saying these few sentences and actually, producing a 20-minute, 30-minute, whatever video on it or whatever. So, hey, if you comment down below and say, hey, we want to see that video about the name change, I might do it. Otherwise, I might do it. I don't know. If I get motivated, I might do it. But otherwise, I don't think I will. But I might have to talk more about the AMC debut episode here and there, because I do feel like it's really important. So I might mention the Thursday Night Impact name, reference it. I don't know. So, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, those are my thoughts on a couple of, at least that potential spoiler at least. It makes sense, obviously, but the idea that I was really tackling there was people's perception that, it's just going back on Mike. And that is cool to have it on Mike, but it's just like, really? I don't mind if Kazarian is a sort of transitional champion, and you could say that a lot of people are transitional champions in some ways. You're just sort of almost everyone is technically, really. You're just the longest transitional champion. You held it for so long. Everyone transitions it to somebody else. So if you're just sort of holding it for any time, and it's I think Brett, I can't remember when he won it off of Diesel, and it felt like, oh, cool, he's just sort of holding it for Sean, in some ways. So he was kind of a transitional champion. He held it for 6 months or something. I think it was something like that. But he'd been such a big deal for so long that, he didn't, I think, don't feel like that much of a transitional champion, but I do feel like people forget that reign, because I think a lot of the focus had shifted more onto Sean. So you've got to have enough focus on some of your guys that you've kind of already got, but you've also got to, shift focus onto other guys as well. So yeah, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it either way here for this one. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and I hope that you'll join me again in another one.